This computer. Welcome to Raw, Real, and Reconnected with Alexander Hill. Today we have Michael J. Palser joining us. Michael is a fitness coach, expert trainer, and also an instructor in animal flow. He is a very passionate spiritual man and a self identified ink addict. A man of true purpose, mission, and inspiration. Welcome, Michael Palser.
Thank you for having me, Alex. I've been excited to do this, and I'm so thrilled for you getting this going. And I truly believe and know that this is what you should be doing. So happy to be here with you.
Awesome. Happy to be here as well. What's alive for you, brother?
Man, I tackled just a bunch of stuff that just tedious stuff that you put off and you put off. It doesn't necessarily ruin your day if it's not done, but like clean the oven, just get a bunch of purging, honestly, like stuff that you don't touch or you don't use for a year needs to go. So just kind of decluttering my life.
Spring cleaning.
Yeah, spring cleaning, like my house and my soul. Like, it's take what you can and use what you need. But it's like, I think about, what would a millionaire live like? I think a millionaire would have a dirty ass oven. No, you probably have someone clean it for him, but that's not where I'm at right now. So I'm like, I wanna live like a king. I need to, like, everything around me needs to replicate what I feel and what I want and desire. So
Mm.
that's what's alive in me, you know?
Mm-hmm. I think there's a lot of different kinds of millionaires out there. Some are messy and some are immaculate. And I don't think I think you just got to do what makes you feel good. And if having a clean, organized space is the way to go, then there's your answer.
Sure. Well said.
Yeah. So I think a lot of people are going through that as well right now. I think a lot of people are going through spring cleaning, taking inventory in their life. Do I need this? Is this serving me? Is this coming along for the next chapter? That's definitely real for a lot of people, at least a lot of people in our men's group. I know that's been coming up a lot. But let's get into the work you do and what you're passionate about. I really want to dive into. I'm really interested in what you do and what you teach and just what inspires you.
Yeah. Well, if you didn't know, I started training, personal training, really young. I actually lied about my age to get my first certification because you needed to be 18 and I really wanted it. And so it was very loose structure in 2000, in the year 2000. So it was like, you do a weekend course, get your certification, and you're off and running. And little did I know, that has nothing to do with training. Of course, knowing the human body and the basics of weight training and weight loss and nutrition, but I soon learned that it was more about human connection, and that's what made me fall in love with coaching and personal training immediately. So I grew up an athlete, and so I was always in a group dynamic. I loved the team aspect, and I was always a player rather than a coach, and I was a leader on the court or on the field. Like that kind of came naturally to me. So that's why I felt like this was a groove for me to explore, and that's how I got started. I was really lucky. The gym that I first started at it was an extension of the hospital in the town I grew up in. So there was a physical therapy and rehab portion of the gym. So like at 17, 18 years old, I was interning with physical therapists and lots of experienced trainers and performance coaches. So it was like the best of both worlds, and it's no surprise that that's what I do right now.
Awesome.
And along the way, it's been an interesting journey of clientele. because a lot of people, like, it's funny, you see those memes about personal trainers, and it's like, what society thinks I do, and it's like train hot chicks. What my mom thinks I do, it's like helping the elderly across the street. And what I really do is it shows a psychologist with a guy on a couch. So um, some of my best sessions have nothing to do with physical, you
Let's
know.
talk about that. Let's talk about that. So you're a fitness trainer, but you're working a lot with people's mindset and their psychology. And are you saying that that's the most important thing?
Well, yes, that's the most important thing, because that's how I get to know them, and that's how I can connect with them, and then that's also how I can see how they need to be pushed, what their motivation is, what type of personality they have. So like, if it's a type A personality, I have like type 1, 2, 3, 4. So type 1, they need to have a whole workout routine. They need to know exactly what they're going to be doing today, tomorrow, the next, journaling. And then a type 3 would be, they need a different workout every time. They want to be surprised. They don't care. It's on me to get them their workout. They just,
Hmm.
that's their accountability, is me. And so yeah, it's definitely a mental study. Um, because there's a saying that goes, knowledge without mileage is bullshit.
Mm.
So I could have like a PhD in, I don't know even know if you can get a PhD in like kinesiology or just anything in my field. And if I can't communicate and I'm off putting to people, all that knowledge is useless, because they're not going to be open to it.
Right.
So it's the human aspect first, and then you're able to share your knowledge and find and help them find a personalized route to their wellness. And that's why it was a no-brainer for Man Tribe. Like, you and I have spoke about it before, where I hit a wall because the warrior and the physical aspect wasn't working for me anymore. I wasn't growing, and therefore my connection with my clients was suffering, because I wasn't there, because I knew I wasn't growing, and I was force feeding them. So by going on that retreat with you, by taking the deep dive within myself, I was able to see that that physical portion, that warrior aspect, was only a minute um, piece of the pie in how to really communicate and help people and build community and have long lasting relationships and actually get people to believe in what I'm offering.
Mm. So when you say you hit a wall, what do you mean exactly?
Um, my obsession with like bodybuilding is can be a very slippery slope. It could be all vanity, yeah. It's a art form. It's like it's kinetic sculpting. Like, we don't really get the chance to change much in this life, but we can change our bodies, like, physically. And so that's the art form of bodybuilding. But there's a big vanity in that, and I lived in that, and I I didn't see that I was, like, my ego was running the show, and that was the wall, because, like, I'm like, I don't want to live that way anymore, and I'm not getting the results within my own happiness. And like, I would build these things, with the tribe that I have, I would build these communities, and slowly people would slip away, and either interest or just life, or I was pretty hardcore. Like, I pushed them very hard, because I expected them to work just as hard or harder than me. And when I didn't see that, I was very hard on them.
Yeah. I,
And that's the wall that I hit. I was like, that something's got to change.
you talk about this in the fitness world and, celebrities or bodybuilders or people that have great physiques, right? A lot of them do it for to inspire others, so others can know that, this is possible, this is possible for you. But when I think actually comes across, it's so hyper inflated in a way, on Instagram. And, there's just so many people out there who want to look good all the time, that I think a lot of the authenticity and a lot of the meaning and inspiration can be lost, because, people that don't have those bodies, they just want to get off their ass and, start exercising again. And they don't have to necessarily, have a six pack, or, be an elite fitness professional or athlete. But, if the goal is really to inspire, do you think that we're missing the mark as a culture and a society, with the way that, six packs, or, perfect physiques are sort of idolized?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Um, and that's what I was talking about, like how bodybuilding is like moving towards, I guess, just the fitness industry has moved really towards like the physical aspect and the vanity aspect, with not just a sport or an art form anymore, because of social media, because of I feel like it's lost its eliteness.
Mm.
Because
So how did it used to be? How did it used to
it was
be, and how
rare
did it
to
change?
see it was rare to see a professional bodybuilder or someone that now every there's like, you go to the gym, there's 5+ people that are telling you they're competing.
Mm.
So, you know what I'm saying? It's like when I first got into it, you would have to work years, and maybe not even like your genetics wouldn't even let you get to a professional bodybuilding level. Now it's like performance enhancing drugs, and then there's different categories for these shows that anybody can compete. And basically it's become like, if you get low body fat, you could get on stage,
Mm.
rather than like actually taking the 3, 5, 7 years to develop this muscle maturity and like an actual physique. And so now it's accessible for a lot of people. um, and our honestly, our knowledge of how to get in that shape is readily available. Like back in the day, I had no idea how to get that lean on in, you just Google it now.
Mhm.
you know so yeah, I really do. That's kind of why I felt like I hit a wall. I was like, there's more to this, and I'm alienating people, the people that really do need help, that someone just needs a release, like this housewife that is in the house for 8 to 10 hours. She just wants to go to the gym to let off some steam.
Mhm.
If she loses some weight and feels more confident about herself, that's a byproduct, a beautiful byproduct. So yeah, you nailed it, man. It's like, I feel like the people that really need me aren't bodybuilders, aren't people that want to get on stage, and that's not necessarily the demographic I'm going for.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot there. And, a lot of people, especially right now, they're looking for personal connection and for community. And, I'm just curious though, at, body fat percentage. I want to talk a little bit about this because it's important for health. And
Mhm.
what what body fat percentage do you feel healthiest at?
Myself,
Hmm.
um, mental health and physical health. If I'm like under 15, closer to 10, I've just like, I've been lean my whole life, and so that's where I'm most confident. Like I love having that prowess. There's something about having like a physical stature when you can go in and own a room silently. And then, yeah, so to answer your question, that's like right around that 12%.
Hmm.
Because then if I really wanted to get lean, like if I had a photo shoot coming up, I could get there quickly. And that's maintainable for me without like
So,
being
so what would you
100.
drop to if you were going to be on the cover of Men's Health or something? What would you drop to be?
I'd, you'd have to get close to like 8, 7.
Hmm.
So bodybuilders on stage, they're closer to 4 or below.
Wow.
And that's just not maintainable long term. So if you were really on it and you've been doing it a long time, and you know your body, you could maintain, depending on your genetics and your body type, you could maintain around 7 or 8. You know, you have to be dialed, but you could maintain that and still have cheat meals and a beer every now and then, you know.
Hmm.
And like you and I talk about a lot about intermittent fasting. That is like an amazing buffer to have a little bit more of a flexible meal plan. So when you administer some form of intermittent fasting, it's like that's the way to. I feel like that's a very useful tool to stay lean.
Yeah. And at what point? I know you've done some longer fasts, but do you feel like muscle mass decreases at a certain point in the fast? 2 days, 3 days. Um, how do you maintain that muscle mass and not lose it during a fast?
That's a common misconception. Is like it's going to take a long time to lose significant amounts of muscle. Like so, if you're prolonged fast for like 3 to 5 days, I don't feel like there's a risk of losing muscle. You know, you might feel flat, but there's studies out there that show by going into a fast, your body goes into like a muscle preservation mode,
Mm.
you know? And so it's all mental, man. Like I was telling this girl, the maybe you should look into some intermittent fasting, like do some research. I can help you with that. And she's like, I just feel like I'll die. And I think on average it's like 6 to 14 days it takes for the human body to die of starvation, depending, you know.
Well,
But
with
the
like with no
some of the
water,
longest cases,
you would have to have no water.
yeah, exactly. So some of the longest cases are over a month.
Oh yeah,
So
I
you're
mean,
not gonna die if you fast for 24 hours, you know, or 18 hours.
yeah, I mean the standard Vision Quest is a 4 day dry fast, and that's a pretty common thing that
Is
happens
that
now.
waterless as well?
Dry fast, yeah, that's dry fast, yeah.
That's intense,
But
man.
I mean, I hear of people doing water fasts for 15, 20, 30 days, just drinking
Yeah.
water, maybe some electrolytes as well. But
Yeah, I was gonna say there are some micronutrients that will really aid everything, you know. I feel like the one of the main benefits of those prolonged fasts, or if I'm saying this properly, it's autophagy.
mhm,
So that's like when your cells go into regeneration mode.
yes.
And there's actual documentary out there called Fasting, and it shows fasting from religion to being stranded. Like, remember the Donner Party back in the day? They got stranded in the winter, and then these people that are on their last ditch effort to not die of cancer or breast cancer or like a brain tumor, and they're healing themselves by fasting or going on like a vegetarian based ketogenic diet, so they remove all processed carbohydrates, which says a lot.
Yeah. Wow. So so you're talking about nutrition, fitness, all of these amazing things that you help people with. And what is being a coach or being an advisor or working with people in their health? What has that taught you about yourself?
Oh, first of all, um, it definitely keeps me in check with my fitness and my nutrition. You know, like that's the number one thing. Whether you're training in person or training online, is what you look like. That's your business card. So it's like incentive to stay healthy and stay fit. That's been huge. But it's really honestly inspired me to like I am addicted to learning. And it was all about like how to get big muscles. And then it was like, okay, how to teach people to get big muscles. Then it was there's really something to nutrition here beyond fitness. And so like just addicted to learning. And that's what led me to inner work and personal development and always just being a sponge, you know, like there's so much to learn out there, like just removing ego and like just getting as many teachers as I can. So just like I caught the bug, the iron bug, you know, like you see a bicep pop and you're like, oh, I like that. Like, well, if I keep doing this, there's gonna be more. So if I keep learning about the human animal and myself and spirituality and the earth and the human body and nutrition, there's going to be more and more growth and possibilities to help myself and the world, baby.
I love it. I love it. What is the connection for you between strength and spirituality?
I feel like really focused exercise, no matter what form, you have to be in the moment. And so therefore you're closer to source.
Mm.
You know, like that was one thing that I felt like I dove into right away was the mental aspect of training. The mind muscle connection, first of all, that's like the one immeasurable thing in fitness that everybody knows is real. Like you can't measure that scientifically. Like if you and I say I had a twin and we're doing the same exact workout, the same nutrition plan, and he was just going through the motions in his workout, and I'm like visualizing in just every single rep with purpose, and you're gonna grow more. And I feel like that's where Arnold Schwarzenegger kind of like led the way with that, because he was just very, very outspoken about his visualization and building his body and his physique.
So let's talk
So I
about
feel
that.
like,
So what exactly? So if you're doing a bicep curl, what are you visualizing?
so there's there's two forms of visualization that I speak about with my clients and like within my own workouts. And there's outward visualization and inward visualization. So with a bicep curl, that's not really necessarily like a big movement, like a squat or a deadlift. So I would use an inner visualization, and that's where you're actually picturing an anatomy chart and you're seeing that bicep from the inside, picturing it contract. Arnold used to talk about like picturing two boulders colliding together and creating a mountain when he was doing curls or shoulder raises, you know. So like you actually are trying to light up that muscle from the inside out.
Mm.
Um, and one thing that is really beautiful about that is that it helps you create full body tension, which tightens up form and essentially bulletproofs the body and just it reduces any chance of injury. Um, and then that outward focus, that's where, say, you and I were trying to get your best 1 rep max bench or squat, rather than you picturing like your quadriceps firing. It's such a big movement. I'm like, Alex, I want you to picture yourself like lighting on fire and jumping through the stratosphere. So outside your body, like an outward focus. So when you're calling on really explosive strength, anything from 3 reps or below or 5 reps, it's that outward focus. So that was taught to me by one of my coaches, and I really resonated. And it's easy for people to grasp that, you know.
Mm. Yeah, that's really interesting. So sort of like the isometric contraction or isolated contraction, one or two muscle groups, you're in an inward sort of meditative space, and then on a larger movement or explosive action, you're just like exploding with
Yeah,
energy. Yeah,
yeah. You were talking about doing like a clean and jerk today, right?
yeah,
Like you're picturing like that weight being tied to the center of the earth, and you're just pulling it from the center of the earth, you know.
yeah.
So that's where like I feel like artistic creativity comes in with that too, because it's like a lot of people think it's just a bunch of meatheads moving weight, but when you get into like, I watched an interview with Frank Zane. Do you know that guy, that name by chance?
No.
He was like a golden era bodybuilder with in the Arnold Schwarzenegger days. He honestly probably would have won a lot more if it wasn't for Arnold. he just like that dude was just the dominator. But he talked about he was the very first one that is really outspoken about the spiritual side of training and the art form and the visualization of the body, like foreseeing what he was going to look like at the end of a training cycle. Because his focus was muscle building and symmetry. So he took pictures of himself weekly and studied that his body to get perfect symmetry. He's like, okay, my shoulders are a little too small, some smaller than I'd like them. So then he puts more focus. He prioritizes weak points. Like Kelly says, you have to keep your strengths on point, but you should prioritize those weaknesses.
Hmm. For sure. So would you say that bodybuilding is a spiritual? It's a journey of spiritual mastery in a way.
Yes, and it doesn't have to be. A lot of people won't go there with it. Like you said, some people just want to release or just need a little weight loss, but that's my journey. It led me here.
So it's this unwavering commitment and focus to what's immediately in your control, which is your body, the way your body looks, and um, just knowing your physiology, knowing your anatomy inside and out, and sort of becoming this textbook example of human potential.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
And
So
if people are wanting to get really serious about their fitness, they're missing out if they don't explore the mental aspect and the deeper connection with self.
mm. So how do bodybuilders age? Like, obviously longevity is a big thing right now, biohacking and living a long time. Is it better to be, skinny most of your life and do yoga and tai chi, or is it better to have like a lot of strength and a lot of muscle and take that strength and muscle into your elderly years?
Um, I would say we need to try to hold on to as much like muscle mass as possible. And of
Mm,
course, it's going to deteriorate a little bit. That's just what happens. But I say individuals, mid 50s, approaching 60s, they need to start thinking about increasing the protein consumption to facilitate that. And then as far as like bodybuilders breaking down, there is a certain degree of mitochondrial damage that happens. And if you keep that high intensity training going and you don't evolve your training methods as you age, it can have a detrimental effect on joints and
mm,
the fascia. And so, once we're getting closer to 40, things have to change, and it should, and that's okay. It's like doesn't mean that like we're any less human. It's just I want to be pain free, and I want all my clients to be pain free. And so like I teach them how to evolve their training. And they could still have the bodies that they had when they were 20. They could still have a lot of strength. It's just as we get a little older, our training frequency intensity needs to um, be catered to.
yes. Do you
Because
do? Co-
you see those guys that like golden era bodybuilders, of course, they were on testosterone, but like the 90s into the 2000s, that's when like bodybuilders started getting cartoony because it was just like they were so juiced up. And now it's like they're falling apart, man. Like they hurt them, they trained so hard and they pushed their organs so hard and their joints so hard that it's like there's no coming back from that. So yeah, it can be like it's everything. It's a slippery slope.
mm. Have you done a lot of cold plunges, Michael?
Yeah, I I was introduced to that years ago on accident. So I was playing music at a fitness festival, and it was in South Park, Colorado. Interestingly enough, South Park, but it was in the middle of this hunting ranch. So it was where like hunters would come, and it was really legit. So like a group of 10 plus hunters would come and have lodging, and then they would get on their horses and go, and it was like a retreat, a hunting retreat. So all this land in the middle of nowhere, and they had these showers set up in like back of a semi truck, and it was cold mountain air temperature shower water. And so like if you wanted to shower, you had to do that. And I was just like, okay, here we go. You know that feeling, you know, you're getting in the cold water and it just bites you and bites you. And I got out of there and I just felt exhilarated. And I'm like, that needs to be explored. And so I started looking into the benefits of it, and that was how I got introduced to it. And I actually read a book where they used to say Native Americans would plunge their infants into the cold river because they knew the benefits of it creating a strong immune system.
Yes,
So they were
yes.
weathering their children without even, that's just how intuitive is that of that culture.
Yeah, making tough kids from the jump. I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
And so so the cold plunging is something that's, part of your routine from time to time. If you're trying to build muscle, does the cold plunge have any effect on that? Because I know it reduces inflammation, but when you're it's hypertrophy, right? Or
Yeah,
um,
that's muscle building.
right. So how does it affect hypertrophy?
It aids it,
Mm-hmm.
especially if you do like a cold plunge post workout.
Mm-hmm.
It flushes all the lactic acid out of your muscles, and therefore you can recover quicker. So that's the thing that people think you're building muscle in the gym. You're breaking down cells in the gym. You're building muscle outside the gym, sleeping and recovering. So with that cold water flushes out the lactic acid, reduces inflammation, and then increases blood flow.
What would you say are some common signs of overtraining? Like, are there any do's and don'ts that you have for people? Do you take, 3 days between a muscle group, or what are some common tips that you have for people out there?
So I try not to lift the same muscle group 2 days in a row, like for any age group or any goal, really. So I do a lot of full body style training. I don't really do like bodybuilding muscle splits anymore, where it's like just chest on this day or whatever. So I have a general rule of thumb, and it's we need to hit every muscle group at least once per week, preferably twice. And it could be that could be a 3 day exercise week. That could be a 6 day exercise week. And my other rule is we never take more than one rest day in a row. And that doesn't mean we have to be going all out every day, but there's something happens to the psyche and your drive when you take 2 days off, even if it's just going for a walk or
Mm.
yoga or like stretching. You just that keeps, I feel like that keeps that inertia going. So that's a rule I have, is no more than, unless you're taking a forced rest week, which I also recommend 3 to 4 times a year,
Yeah.
because that reinvigorates you mentally. It kind of lets you heal deeper. And the the human is an adaptation machine, so we're going to adapt to anything really. And so if you just keep training, it's going to get stagnant. And so you take that rest week and you kind of force it into another growth phase or whatever phase you're going into. But signs of overtraining would be strength gains stop or start decreasing. You can't recover. You're sore all the time. Lethargy. Um, so overtraining tips would be balance within your routine, a focus on sleep and recovery, and um, reducing stress.
Right on. Right on. How does animal flow integrate with strength training?
Um, in every aspect. So it could be movement prep. So it's like you're getting your body primed. So say you're doing a deadlift, a pulling day, a back day. I would have you do posterior chain dominant animal flow movements. So like crab reach, that's where you're completely activating posterior chain. So movement prep, um, and then also just within itself, it's strength work in itself. You know, you do these movements super slow, and you're repping through them. That's strength work in itself. And then one of my favorite forms to use it is active rest in between. So say you and I were working out and we're doing like a clean and pull-ups. So as you're doing your pull-ups, I'm doing like a side kick through or a traveling ape. So I use that as like an active rest or kind of like in replacement for um, a cardiovascular activity in between. So prep, actual strength work and mobility, performance, and then active rest and active recovery.
Good stuff. So just always keeping the body in motion and flow and working all those different muscle groups in a functional way, it sounds like.
Yeah, because with a lot of strength training, everything is very linear, straightforward. You know, it's like any on field or on court athlete, that's not linear at all. It's
Mm.
sideways, it's twisting, it's up and down, it's like extended with one arm. So if you just do bench press and squat and deadlift, you're going to lose dexterity, you're going to lose agility, you're going to lose your coordination. And so that's where animal flow comes in and keeps like it's a low impact way for someone that might not be athletic to get more athletic and do it safely. So
Nice,
like
nice,
we move on that transverse plane and that sagittal plane.
nice. So I don't know how many musician and bodybuilders that you know, but how many do you know?
Um, Not many, man. Oddly enough, this was so weird. I was in a I was working at 24-hour fitness when I first moved to Colorado, and I was looking to start a band. The whole band was personal trainers. Just because of like that was my connection was 24-hour fitness. And so like I met another singer and then the drummer there. And then the bass player was like working the front desk. So it was this ongoing joke. It was just like it's so rare though. Like a lot of people have said that, like my bandmates, just horrible lifestyle habits, you know, like partying, over drinking, not getting any sleep, eating garbage. And I'm like bringing my meal prep food to the shows.
Would you say that like typically the skill set for singers or songwriters or musicians is usually different than the athletes, or do you think there's a crossover?
Not the successful ones, not the serious ones. It's like when you look into it, you look at the lifestyles of a lot of like serious musicians, they're definitely eating right and administering some sort of exercise. Like my the creator of Animal Flow, Mike Fitch, actually sent me a old school clip of Chris Cornell doing Animal Flow, which was really cool because he's like one of my favorite all time artists. But like uh, most serious touring musicians, they know that they can't trash their body and they're going to perform better if they're in their own peak physical condition.
Makes sense. Makes a lot of sense.
And it's just like honestly, like any driven successful human, I guarantee you they have some sort of ritual, whether it be meditation and exercise and eating properly.
Yep. Absolutely. It's all about that balance and achieving that mental clarity. And yeah, I mean, I can't even, I wouldn't be able to function without exercise. The feeling that I get
Yeah,
after
man.
exercise is just, it's a euphoria and a groundedness, euphoria. I think a lot of men um, are missing that, you know, and, I think what happens is, a lot of men, even athletes, even athletes that were, in high school athletics, and they grow up into adulthood and they just don't see the point of working out because they're not competing for anything, or they're not
Mhm.
they don't have a goal or a mission, and they might think it's vanity, or they might just like kind of give up in a way. And I think there was one point in my life where that kind of happened to me, where I was just like, okay, like what am I going to the gym for? And now I'm going to the gym to be a successful dad and entrepreneur, and like I know exactly what I'm going to the gym for. But there was this period, I think, when I didn't really have my purpose clear and figured out, where the gym, it just didn't appeal to me. And I think there's a lot of guys out there that might be in that place right now, especially with the challenges that we're going through.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And man, I get stuck. That's why I have to keep learning and I have to keep exploring because it gets boring doing the same thing, and it's like, so we got to find ways to shake it up and keep interested. And um within the man tribe groups and the deep dives, a lot of, or just even outside there, a lot of men are hurting, a lot of men are needing some sort of like therapeutic release that they're not getting. They're not able, like, there's just something about that strength or hitting a heavy bag where you like get some like emotional release.
Yeah.
And it's like free therapy. Like if some guys, like, instead of like getting like if they replace that anxiety or that anger with just going and hitting a heavy bag, or man, when we do the screaming in our groups, just a primal scream, we feel better, just letting it out.
Moving energy.
Hmm.
Well, great, man. This was awesome. I'm glad that we got a chance to do this, and I
Me
think this
too.
is I think this is episode number 8. I'm still figuring it out in a lot of ways, and cutting, but I'm sure we'll get some clips. And there were a lot of great things you said about fitness and spirituality and diet, nutrition, animal flow. So really stoked to go back and review this and get it out there to the people. So thank you so much, Michael.
Thank you, man. I felt like this was all about me today, and I'm sure that was kind of the process, but I really wanted to tell you how inspired I am by you doing this podcast. And like, I see this joy coming out of you. Like, we talked about not having a purpose in the gym. I feel like this was a new purpose for you.
Yeah. And
You're like,
it's a practice, man. It's like consider myself a practitioner of men's work and a practitioner of this now. It's like it's probably one of the deepest dives into myself that I could ever do, is like recording an interview, listening, and then going back and editing it and noticing my tonation, noticing my voice, my gaze, my presence, just like all, and saying, oh, I ate this today and then I didn't feel so good. And then my energy was weird on
yeah,
camera. And, just like full self-awareness and full presence. It's really this deep dive into self-awareness.
yeah, it's impressive and it's very inspiring, man. Like, you just tackling that fear has really inspired me to get over what I'm needing to get over, and that's my fear of diving into the online game. And so we can talk more about that, but like, you've inspired me, man. So thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, man, it's scary. I'll be honest. Like I'll jump in the cold water. I'll go hit it some deadlift, you know, but like something about doing this, man, like being like raw,
Mm-hmm.
authentic, real, vulnerable. It's just like, and it's all in the head. It's not even like real fear. And I know that. And it's still scary. And I think it's like, I think we're just so conditioned in a way. A lot of people. I mean, fear of public speaking is one of the biggest fears that people have, even higher than death. And it's just like,
Yeah.
what is that? You know, why do we care so much about how we're perceived? And you know, what's the worst thing that could happen? And you know, this social media, it just like, I think it throws all of our circuits off, because you know, you might put out a video and get 100 views or whatever, and it's just like, at the end of the day, you know, that video might really impact, you know, a couple people, and they'll reach out to you, or they'll have an, you know, an insight, or something will heal, or you know, they'll get some growth from it. But you know, other than that, you know, it's like the fire is such an important element in this, and transformation especially. It's like, you know, eventually everything burns up and goes back to nature. You know, it's like you have a tree, it goes into firewood, it goes into the fire, and then it goes back into soil. The ash turns into soil, and then it grows a new tree. So it's like, you know, I feel like that's life. You know, you just keep on moving forward, and you just keep on trying new things. And really, the one thing I've learned is that nobody cares. You know, if you mess up, nobody really cares. People, what do people care about? They care about themselves,
Yep.
and they care about, you know, what's next in their immediate reality. And I think, especially right now, not too many people are going to go out of their way to, you know, to even watch like the entire, you know, 1 hour YouTube episode, or the entire podcast, unless it's something that's really speaking to their heart. You know, I think it's just a series of, you know, taking action and learning, you know. But like, we have a lot of friends that do podcasts, right? And it's really just this exploration of self-development, and this learning. Like our friend Nick, for example, his podcast is Teaching Nick. It's, you know, he's doing it to learn more and have these great
Mhm.
conversations. So
So there was something really wise in a podcast I watched. It was Jordan Peterson and Joe Rogan,
mhm.
and they were speaking on how podcasts, spoken word, is becoming the new written word. And I like thought I never looked at it like that. And like these two guys are extremely intelligent, and for them to express how important podcasts are, because it's like we have a platform, like they're leading the spear, like Joe Rogan and like people with that big of a following and that impact. I feel like the news and media, they're talking about news and media, it's their last ditch effort, because the truth is coming, and people do not like being lied to. And in podcasts, for the majority, it's just truth speaking, man.
Yeah, and you know, there's radio shows and talk shows, but there's something about a podcast, and for our generation, and
Yes.
definitely the younger generations, it's like you follow some people that have podcasts, you commit to a podcast, and then you're on your commute, you listen to it, and you listen to usually a large portion of it while you're driving. And that's what it, you know, is probably why it's the new written word, because a lot of people aren't writing or typing when they're in their cars, or when they're on the go, right? What are we doing? We're on our phones. And a lot of people don't like even reading on their phones for too long, because that's not very comfortable, right? So
Yeah.
either you're in front of a computer screen at home and you're like, you know, reading, but I don't even like reading on this illuminated screen. Eventually that's just like draining.
Yep.
So I just usually just close my eyes, put my headphone in, and listen to some stories and some interviews and podcasts.
Exactly.
So it just makes so much more sense. And you know, everybody with these like red blocker, you know, sunglasses on, light blocker, like you don't even have to do that. You can close your eyes and you could just tune into the audio. And I think that's why, Clubhouse and all, this Clubhouse app is just blowing up, because people are just tired of looking at a freaking screen, I think. And especially in the pandemic with all these things happening at Zooms, I'm tired of looking at a screen. I'm done, bro.
I know. It's hard because it's like toxic, but at the same time, the what we're trying to do, it's our window to help and heal and learn.
Mm,
So we like it's like we have to embrace it.
yeah. Yeah, I think it's part of the journey, and it's like using technology for the greatest good, and using technology in the way that we can creatively to create change. And
Hmm.
yeah, I mean, that's real, man. Well, it's a pleasure to know you, brother. I'm so glad that we met. I'm so glad that we work together and that we support men in their journeys. And it's really been an honor and a pleasure to witness your journey and to see you, um, rise into your leadership, and coaching people in the gym, and now coaching them and supporting them in their emotional awareness, and doing all the things you do as a men's coach and leader.
Man, thank you. It's the pleasure and the honor is mine, brother. So right back at you.
Awesome,
Thank you
brother.
for giving me this opportunity to speak with you and kind of share my story a little bit. So thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, Michael Palser, and we are signing out.